Good afternoon, dear friends, and welcome to NYC Concierge Explores. Here we are today at the very historic Fraunces Tavern, located in Lower Manhattan in the Wall Street district, on the corner of Pearl and Broad Street. Fraunces Tavern is the oldest structure in Manhattan and is steeped in history of George Washington and the American Revolutionary War. So I thought it very fitting in preparation for the 4th of July holiday this weekend that we should take a little stop and a little talk about this very special restaurant, Fraunces Tavern, which opened in 1719. But the history of this land goes way back to the history, really, of New York. And as you know, New York history started down here at the Battery and gradually worked its way up to what we now know as Midtown Manhattan. But going back to 1524, when the area was inhabited primarily by the Lenape people, who were very skilled hunters and traders in corn and other produce, and eventually would meet with European explorers such as Verrazzano from Italy, Henry Hudson from England, names that you know of associated with the Hudson River, the Verrazzano Bridge, among many other explorers in the early settlement of what was known as New Amsterdam. Into the 1600s, this area was still water, which then became land-filled lots. So the land on which Fraunces Tavern is located was originally water and a land-filled lot, which was first purchased by Stuyvesant van Cortlandt, a Dutch immigrant who also was quite prominent in the very early settlement of New Amsterdam. The land then was exchanged by several other owners until 1719, when the Delancey family purchased the building, and it became a tavern, a private club, as well as a dance hall from time to time. Later in the 1700s, when George Washington was sworn in very close to us at Federal Hall as the first president of the United States, he was a frequent visitor and customer of Fraunces Tavern. And in fact, that very, very special night at the end of the American Revolutionary War, when the last of the British soldiers remained in New York, Washington took his Continental Army to a very special dinner to bid farewell, that the war was over, and to give them a treat on the second floor in the banquet room right here at Fraunces Tavern, which I welcome all of you to visit, especially during this historic weekend of 4th of July and the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Thank you, dear friends. Mr. Samuel Fraunces purchased 54 Pearl Street in 1762 and created the tavern. At that time in history, taverns were the center of the community with music, entertainment, food. It's no wonder George Washington enjoyed being there. The interior, even to this day, is steeped in colonial charm, and Washington retained Fraunces as his chief steward long after his presidency and after the tavern was sold to another proprietor. Very much connected to the history of Fraunces Tavern is also Federal Hall, located here in the Wall Street area, and the statue behind me of George Washington, symbolizing where he was sworn in, where he first took oath as the first president of the United States on April 30th, 1783, right here at Federal Hall, which was the first capital of the United States. Washington, of course, with its short distance away, was, as I mentioned earlier, a frequent customer of Fraunces Tavern and became very, very friendly and connected with Mr. Fraunces for years later. Federal Hall, as well as the history of Wall Street, the New York Stock Exchange, which is diagonally across from Federal Hall, is all on another day, dear friends, on another tour and another visit. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the 4th of July weekend.